Hey everyone, Ariel here with aBlogtoWatch Weekly, again joined by Ripley and David from the team. Rick, where are you? We miss you. We know you're going through some hard times out there. You're not awake as you want to be, but I miss the jingle. I have to say, I miss a jingle. Maybe
Jingle
not
bells.
the jingle. I miss a jingle.
I think could it be that Rick is Santa Claus? I mean, he's not here. Where is he?
Does he work for Coca-Cola too?
Probably.
Because Coca-Cola invented our Santa Claus. Anyways,
have we ever seen Rick and Santa Claus
sad.
in the same place?
Have we seen Santa Claus in any
Exactly.
place? We've met.
I've seen him in a mall.
I love how Rick's very confused right now listening to this. He's like, what are they talking about? It's because you have a sleigh.
What would Santa wear? Seriously.
You have a sleigh on the farm, right? All farms have sleighs. That
Well,
sounds like
David, the
sounds like a
Power
farm thing.
Design Project aims to answer that.
The what?
Seiko's it got rebranded. It's not the Power Design Project. It's the Incredibly Specialized Watches Project, but
It's the best thing ever.
Oh
the
yeah,
best.
I gotta pull this up.
Yes. So what
It
watch
is-
would Santa wear? It is one of the 6. They also have ones vampires, girls in love, ninjas, DJs. But yes, Santa is among the list. So
Are
quite
you
topical.
kidding me? That's
Yes.
amazing.
Oh, I shared this with you, David. You just
I know, but
your inbox is so full all the time, sir.
I've literally been saving this for myself because I wrote the article about this last year and I had such a ball. You guys will learn soon about within this podcast why. It says semi-hard. The first thing I see is like semi-hard. Okay. So
Okay.
You see?
We have to explain some context before we get into
It's
this.
a world of wonder.
What is this? I don't know how long Seiko's been doing this, and they've had various different names. You can see the Power Design Project. None of this was meant for anybody outside of Japan. So that's the first thing we need to say. If you go back and look at this and are confused, it's probably because you're not Japanese. And if you're confused and you are Japanese, then I don't know what to say. Then Seiko's done its job, I guess.
Well,
The goal of this was, I don't know if these have ever been commercially made, but they take, I think, people that work at Seiko and allow them to do like a personal pet project, which is a watch for, I guess, as they say, a very specific purpose, and then we get to be delighted at the results. So I think they make one physical copy. I don't know if these have ever been sold. Ripley, how do you want to add to that?
Yeah, and I'd just like to draw, along with the graphics, the both Power Design Project and Incredibly Specialized Watch Exhibition, it says watches that 99% of people don't need. So I think that kind of summates it. It says it right there on the banner. These are really, I think, incredibly specialized watches, yes, but watches that 99% of people don't need accurately describes
Isn't
these.
that
These
most
are-
luxury watches, though? Let's be honest.
Well, I don't know. I might need a full diamond set Jacob & Co. But the whole point of these is to make these as specialized and niche and thematic as possible. And they're not really supposed to be commercially viable offerings. So with that not part of the criteria for designing a watch, why not design one for a fictional character such as Santa Claus or vampires?
I love that there's a place you can go, which I don't actually think it says where it is here, but there's a place you can go in Tokyo, I imagine, from the hours of 11 a.m. to 8 p.m., which is decently late, where you and children, for free, for a few days, January 1st to the 3rd, can go see these watches, and they put them out for people to see. Like that's actually really, really cool. And again, there were 6. I think there may have been more other years, but let's just talk about the special uses these watches for. There's the Ninja Stealth Watch, the Specialized Watch for Club DJs, Vampire Exclusive Watch. That's what they say, Vampire Exclusive. Boiling Egg Watch, but only for boiled egg lovers. That's important there. Santa Claus's Specialized Watch, and a watch for girls in love. And I guess we're going to have to go over these one by one. But David, you'll have.
This is unreal.
Which is the first one, David? You get to choose. What do we look at
It's
first?
got to be Santa. I mean, that's what we're
Santa?
talking about.
Okay, we are recording on
December 25.
I love how this is the wrong. We have to go to a special website.
Yes,
There's
and
5
then
websites.
It's there's layers to this.
It's not the website; it's the other website to actually
down
see what
and
these are all about.
scroll down some more, and then you have to go sideways there at the watches thing.
Yeah.
So
Oh
here
yes,
you have to
there's
go
like
sideways.
Okay, let's turn the spinner over. Finally, we get to see some details here. It's just, this is really the website for the 1% of people as well here. Okay, I love the animation here. Santa is just full of stuff there.
Undulating,
So
yes,
odd.
in all respects.
That looks like a Nightmare Santa from South Park, basically.
Okay, so we have here a gold-toned
that's
watch on a Boone-style strap with a hunter case that opens. We got a reindeer on the dial. It's, I guess it looks on point thematically.
Yeah, it's like a golden compass watch that,
for the happiness of all children. That's okay. That's why he's doing it, right? You got the little red reindeer.
Got to be reminded of the mission.
Yeah, I guess that star is the GMT hand. Is that what I'm guessing it is?
I don't think it is.
Well,
It's
no,
24 hours.
It's all in 24-hour time. So
yeah, I think it is I think it is
Look.
a GMT.
It goes from midnight to 6, and then after 6 it comes 19. So it only operates between the morning and the evening, where he can like sneak through the whatever it is.
Oh, I get it. So it is a normal 12-hour dial with a GMT. So there's a 24-hour and 12-hour, but the 12-hour, rather than having the first 12 hours, has half of it, 1 through 6, and then 19 through 24. That's, I guess, those are the hours that he would be doing his fantasy gift.
Santa Claus operational hours, but it's fantastic. I've never seen a dial laid out like that. It's not an error proof, but more like an error guarantee.
I mean, those are basically my hours, right? Like
that's actually true. Maybe you are Santa then, not Rick.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
That's hilarious.
When the case
That's
is
literally
closed,
your hours. It's so true.
Yeah, it's on this thing there. So you get multiple time zones there. You have this case that closes with this kind of ornate, almost, Swiss mountain style design here, actually, if you think about it.
Beautiful.
It looks nice. Don't quite know what it is there. It just says it reflects the gentle presence of Santa Claus. Wow.
When viewed from Mount Owate. It also has a full loom dial, so you may not be able to read it, but it has plenty of loom, ample amounts of loom.
It's not going to charge. It has a hunter
it has a cover on
It's going to be dark.
Here's a picture of the designer dressed up as Santa Claus. That's kind of interesting cosplay right there.
No, that's officially recognized by the Greenland International Santa Claus Association as Japan's Santa Claus representative, Mr. Paradise Yamamoto.
Oh, is that not the designer? That's just...
He is the Japanese Santa Claus. And
that is the top
certified this watch. Yeah.
Wow, what an honor. Oh, this is the designer. Okay, he just receives the presents. Okay. Look, this is a new website.
It's officially certified by Japanese Santa?
Yeah.
Yes.
He's
awesome.
certified by the Greenland
ambassador.
Santa.
Well, it's just like maybe Greenland Santa's like COSC. It's the standard, everyone understands it. So by putting a Greenland certified Santa on the Japanese Santa, they are speaking to the commonly referred to gold standard for Santa Claus authorities.
I mean,
think
compare a Washington press release to this. I mean, this is an endless world of wonder, basically, compared to like a different color dial.
Well, the only difference is that
exploring.
The Swiss try to be more serious when they make stuff up. At least the Japanese are being silly about it.
Yes, love it.
I like actually here it says that the designer of this makes Presage and King Seiko watches. So it's kind of interesting where it's like, you may see his work in these other things. So that's kind of cool that there's some idea of where this person's aesthetic goes. And I can see that kind of classically inspired there. That's kind of neat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Exactly.
This is so not like Presage and King Seiko, two of the most conservative and traditional collections in the Seiko canon. It's so good to. I think it's kind of cool when they say what they also worked on, because it's like, well, this clearly wasn't anything that was left over from one of his designs.
Okay, Ripley, you get to choose the next one we look at here.
Okay, let's do the vampire, another fictional character. I'm not sure the egg boiling watch for egg lovers, but let's do the vampire watch.
Okay, dedicated to the ruler of the night, captivating all who gaze upon it. Another night watch for me. I feel like there's just a lot here for me. Oh, here's the nice animation. Okay,
Ooh,
yeah, that's nice.
scary looking watch.
I think this is my favorite of them. I've seen them all already. You know, I like those old style hands. David knows that,
Wow.
especially on a modern watch.
That's very cool.
This one again, it just sort of tries to hide the morning hours, like they're not relevant, which is kind of cute.
Yeah. I think we should highlight the fact that these are existing watches made out of metal and stuff. So these are like actual things. They are not just CGI. So that's extremely cool that Seiko has what it takes to make something like
Oh,
that.
they fabricate
and
these. Yeah,
produce
there's
all
the
of them.
exhibition. Remember, you can go see these things.
Exactly.
Like these are real working watches. Look at the little details. Rather than 3 days, it says 3 nights for the length of the power reserve.
Love it. So
Uh,
cool.
You got this rotating ring as the bezel, and on it are stones that they change color from sort of completely transparent to deep red. Is that supposed to represent the day-night cycle, or
No,
how
it's a
hungry
blood
they
timer.
are?
It's a blood timer. So for vampires
Blood
who
timer?
feed, you align the darkest stone with when you recently consumed blood, and then you can track the elapsed time of either, hours or minutes, depending on which hand you
Oh.
set it to, against the unidirectional rotating blood measure scale. So you know that once you get to the clear stones, it's time to go kill another person and drink their blood because you are severely depleted. It's the dive bezel reimagined for blood intake for vampires.
You know what? Why not? It's clever. I'll give it that. I think that's really nicely done.
Fantastic.
He's talking about how much he loves the 15th century European monarch.
Of course.
Power design projects is right. That's probably the least attractive element of it. It's like kind of ruins the whole thing. It should have a little message
What?
for on the back of the watch there.
Well, that's
just
how
says
you
power
know
design.
it's a Seiko. They took a display case
Yeah.
back, did something cool with it, and then put a graphic there. That's how you know it's still a Seiko.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Well, not the best part, but still great.
Look-
Still great. Red.
Look at the picture of the designer. Scroll down a bit.
Oh,
This is just the best. This whole thing, it just makes my year in watches, really.
I think
Well
I've
done,
met this
Seiko.
gentleman. And what else does he make? He makes the high end models, and has done
Key
prospects.
member of the design team for
Yeah.
prospects.
So basically, I think the operative point is there may be a vampire designing Grand Seiko. Just saying.
So there's a letter from the vampirologist,
A
doctor of
vampirologist.
letters.
Don't you use that term all the time, David? Vampirologist?
I know it just doesn't
No?
roll off my tongue. No. Maybe by
What
this
is-
time next year.
Yes, and he approves this one, the vampirologist.
That's cool.
I love how they had to have an ambassador for all these. I'm curious about the egg timer one.
Yes.
Who's
That.
Well, they should have.
Yeah,
I noticed that they don't have the photo for Dr. Moriguchi, the vampirologist, and that's probably because they didn't use a mirrorless camera. As we all know, vampires won't show up in mirrors, and if they use a standard DSLR, it wouldn't show up. So maybe that's why the photo of him is just a black silhouette.
But you
I'm
know,
beyond
you don't think
impressed.
anyone in Japan could have maybe illustrated the man?
Well, they also
There's a
make
lot of artistic
mirrorless-
talent there.
There's a lot of mirrorless cameras that are produced by Japan, so I feel like there's ample options available across the road.
Yes. And again,
This is
another
fantastic.
fantastic motif of the apparently drunken vampire. And I like how, notice here, I'm guessing, I'm just going to guess here, but well, I see the earrings on the designer, and then looking at the vampire. Oh, so
there.
suggestive. Okay. Look, if he is a vampire, I'm not prejudiced at all. Just don't eat me. Okay. Because we've been talking so much about the boiled, just
Are you
very
a boiled egg
specific.
lover?
It's like, it's not just cooking eggs or not just cooking. It's a specific way of cooking one specific kind of food. So I guess this is about as niche as you can get. And you have here the egg cook apparently floating in space there.
Well, the name of it, before we even get into it, the name of this sounds like the egg boiling version of an Omega where we've put all the keywords in twice. It's not just an egg boiling watch, nor is it a watch for boiled egg lovers. It is the egg boiling watch for boiled egg lovers. In the same way we get the master coaxial master chronometers, we get the egg boiling watch for boiled egg lovers.
Well, it's like a watch for people and then a watch for watch lovers. This isn't just boiled eggs for the masses. This is boiled eggs for people that are boiled egg fanatics. If they
This is true. This is not for the casual egg boiling, and one does not merely dabble and get this watch. This is for someone who's deeply committed to the dish.
And it does look like a sliced egg.
Yes, that's hilarious. Oh my goodness, it's so good. I mean, we know exactly who comes up with this stuff, but it's so fantastic. These need to be made, all of them, at once.
Well, I think it's got a cool complication as well, as far as how you would like your boiled egg to be cooked with this unique minute hand that can be used kind of like a stopwatch style. So, it doesn't just look like an egg. It will help you cook your eggs.
That's fantastic. Ariel, you're on mute.
I'm just laughing about some of the terms on the periphery of the dial there that in other contexts could be quite amusing.
Super soft. I need a semi-hard timer in my life. That's true.
Yeah. According to my watch, I'm semi-hard now. So,
It's only 2 more minutes, darling. It's okay.
And to be fair, the positioning of the hand coincides with it. Super soft, vertically down. Hard up. Semi-hard, about 10, 11 o'clock.
And I wonder if ladle the eggs into the boiling water may be a euphemism for something I'm not familiar with.
What
is printed to something?
Well, what is printed between 7 and 8? Hanjuku?
Hanjuku? That is probably a kink we're not familiar with, to be honest. Here's there's a 5-star Sommelier, which apparently is a term for an egg sommelier. Didn't know such a thing existed, and I guess he's the ambassador. That, you know what? That is the smile of a man who likes his eggs. Let's just be honest. And the designer is okay. I mean, a fellow egg enthusiast. I mean, that's
a perfect egg.
That is. Are these the people that go to the market and examine the eggs and then try to rearrange 12 perfect ones? I guess here you can only buy them by the half dozen. I like how they're holding only 6 there. Maybe that's America. You are normally 12, I guess a dozen, but things are smaller in other countries.
When apparently he designs for Grand Seiko, so this is the one watch. When I guess this is what happens when Mount Iwate finally has no more vistas to lend themselves to dials. You get eggs.
What happens when Egg Guy and Vampire Guy disagree? Because obviously they're on the same team. It's an egg fight. Okay.
Yeah.
Deviled egg fight.
Until it gets dark, and then.
That'd be a great way of solving disputes. Okay, guys, get out the perfect eggs, throw them at one another. And the guy's talking about, well, if you boil it properly, it's going to hit a lot harder. And then maybe that's where the perfect boil comes into. It's like making the perfect snowball or something.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like
did
the
they
design
make a new movement for this? Like, I mean, this is a working watch. Did the electrical engineers at Seiko get involved in this to solve the egg boiling problem?
It doesn't seem to be that difficult. I mean, the timer features a white hand that completes a full rotation in 12 minutes, so that's an easy gearing thing. And you can select your preferred level of doneness in 30-second increments. I
like how you have to put the egg in the boiling water using a ladle. They're very specific. No other way of putting it in the water.
Well, you got to be safe here. Yeah, the ladle.
Don't drop it in, I guess.
Yeah, don't freehand it. Yeah.
Turn eggs.
But doesn't it look like at least some movement modification was made here in the honor of the perfect egg?
100%. There's no reason to have a central 12-minute timer otherwise. This is about as niche as it gets.
Can we start asking people if they're into Hanjuku?
Yeah. Be careful, though. You might get an invite you can't refuse, but still, it's like I think it's fun. I appreciate that it was not solved with a rotating bezel. You could just rotate wherever you could rotate the scale to the hand wherever the hand is. But yeah, I think it's cool that it's done from the movement side.
I love how such a weird statistic. 90% of Japanese people enjoy eggs. I want to know how that compares.
Paper.
I've never met anyone specifically hate eggs. I'm guessing that would be the same most places around the world.
No,
I just thought this was like
does
a
not
pride
enjoy
point.
them. They are like, ugh.
Oh God, those eggs.
Not for me.
Well, there might be something here. You know, the 7-Elevens in Japan are famous for their good foods, and the same dish that would absolutely put you in the hospital if you picked it up in the United States is entirely edible over there. And the poster child example for that type of food is the egg salad sandwich. So there must be some validity to this 90% statistic they're giving us, because I could not imagine having an egg salad sandwich, let alone an edible one, if it wasn't popular among the public.
So the next one here is a watch for girls in love, which is actually a theme that we've seen from Christophe Claret in a much more expensive watch. This one doesn't have a price. But this goes to the whole, does he love me? Does he love me not? Pulling the petals off of the flower here. So I'm seeing these same 4 pushers on the case here. So I'm feeling like there's some synergy between this and the egg one in terms of the movement here. I haven't talked about that too much. So I guess you push a button and then it randomly goes around to loves me or loves me not. There's a central hand which indicates something. So, or is that love me not actually the minute? Does it just keep moving each minute like that? What's going on there?
You can, I think you can engage it, and it will kind of like a roulette give you. It says the result is determined randomly. So this is kind of like a love themed simplified version of that Jacob & Co. gambling watch.
Okay. So there's they call it the fortune telling function. And it just, as you said, randomly turns it around to a loves me not position. I like this one. I feel that it's not as creative inherently. It's, again, it fits the task well. But I think the other ones do a better job of specific profession, like liking eggs or not profession, activity. This one, I don't know. Maybe this is, I don't know if this is 1% enough,
It's
lots
90%.
of people.
Everyone likes love.
Yeah, lots of people experience love. How many people are ninjas or Santa Claus or vampires?
I mean, we're talking about, what was it? Incredibly specialized watches. Girl in love is like most girls at some point in their life.
But they do require an incredibly specialized watch, right?
That's they all want to feel special. That is true. One of the more interesting ones here, and I don't know why it's taken Seiko so long, but the Ninja Stealth was crafted for stealth, enabling time telling without a glance. So is it just your brain knows what it is? So how do they accomplish that? Well, there's this cool wrapping strap, and this sort of like, what is it, an 8-sided case there? Looks kind of neat. Nifty.
Six?
Oh,
is
six,
it?
a hexagonal one there?
Yeah, kind of.
It's got a bunch of other shapes on there, and then it keeps blowing away, stealth style. Okay, so we got a geometric case. It's obviously black on black, so it's going to be very stealthy. Oh, there's I guess a magnifier that moves out of the way.
There are 2 lids. So one of the lids is this hinged lid with a clear cover, so you can see the time. But you can also, because it's hinged, move it so you can tactily feel the hands when you don't want to take your eyes off of your target, or when you are so ninja that you're in pitch black conditions.
Oh, so this is like the blind person watch, basically.
Yeah, but it comes with not 1 but 2 covers. The other is completely solid for ninjas who literally do not need to see at all. And for that one, you can engrave the clan's emblem on it, and it's protected against shock. So you can only tell the time when you move the cover and touch the hands yourself.
I always wonder if doesn't touching the hands like run the risk of moving them?
Yes.
It certainly does.
Okay.
I reviewed a watch many years ago,
The
like 8 or 9
Ecom?
years ago, that was for the visually impaired, and it had a quartz movement, and it used two grooves on the case, one on the top and one on the side, and each groove had like a little metallic bowl in it, and they were moved by magnets, and you could just flip them around, or it was okay to dislocate them because they would be moved by a magnet that was attached.
They
to
would
the
fall
movement
back into
itself.
place. Is what you're saying.
Exactly. So you wouldn't
So the
interfere with the
magnetic
movement.
part is what moved, and those just stayed there and moved away.
Mm.
It says it's resistant to external shocks, which is cool. I
Yeah.
don't know if this is practical. I feel like ninja stuff has to be like cool and efficient. I don't know how efficient this is.
You could probably use it as a throwing star.
How?
Yeah.
You'd have to unwrap it first, and then it'd be like the weirdest throwing object.
Okay, well, what about,
Aerodynamics.
what
Detach the
about that
lid.
that thing on the chain or string that the ninjas have? That this you could unwrap it and go at someone with that. Wait, hold up. Is this black thing part of the strap, like that sweatband looking thing?
I think so. It's hard to tell
Looks
because
like
you're
it.
right. There's a picture of it off of
Well,
that, but yeah, I think that's
in the
strap.
moving GIF, you can almost see it start to wrap around. So never mind. This it looks like that's attached. This is like the Uber version of a Japanese bund.
The Ninja Bund. Okay, it's a new thing. Well, not my favorite one. I like some of the ideas here, but I feel that definitely not as cool as that egg timer. All right,
Well,
last one.
The interesting thing is that there are professional ninjas. I've driven around LA and I see all sorts of martial arts dojos that are specialized in, it's not karate or taekwondo, it specifically says like ninja skills.
Okay, and according to the doctrine of secrecy, the best thing to do is wear a watch saying you're a ninja, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. The last one here is I actually like the design of this one a lot. This is the specialized watch for club DJs. So,
Not
playing
wedding
music.
DJs. Yeah, not wedding DJs, not the casual DJs, not festival DJs. This is
Not wedding
specifically
DJs.
yeah,
Yeah, so we're
club
thinking
DJs only.
inside at a club, lots of lights, lots of spectacle, high tempo, captivating the audience with style and skill. Okay, so
So
the design
reason
of it is very
why,
futuristic.
yeah, the
Um,
reason why you have to be a club DJ is because this relies on the black lights or UV lights that are in clubs, so that the watch looks very different once it's hit with a black light. So it's not just the lume, but there's like a multi-tier dial apparently that glows in blue and adds a different element once you're under a black light. And the strap also, if you look at it, it has a little strip that glows. So that's kind of cool.
What's also interesting is apparently they went to great lengths to make sure that the dial was mirrored to create sort of this optical bouncing effect, which is supposed to make legibility more interesting, I guess. You'd have to see it in person, but that's pretty cool. And I think the colors are actually really nice because a lot of these watches would look dumb outside of a club. We see a lot of these, as we call them, club watches. So there's often bright colors and things like this. But this has the ability to be colorful, though a little bit more, I guess you could say, subdued and conservative in a natural light setting. I just thought
So
this was, and some of the indicators there. I guess they show the time, the dancing hours between midnight and I guess 6 a.m. I wish they
yeah.
had that out here in LA.
Yeah, so there's the descriptions here are kind of important, and we'll cover this in our article. But it says the challenge was to create a watch with a depth of approximately 1 centimeter, so 10 millimeters, which is of course difficult if you have a watch that's like 12 millimeters thick or whatever. So, and if you look at this side view where the two watches are next to one another, and you can see it in the black light, the reflections create this depth effect, which is really cool, and again, something that we have not really seen in a watch before.
Aesthetically, I quite like this one, although I have another idea for a DJ watch that uses a complication. So, well, this is, from a visual perspective, one of my favorites. I feel like it doesn't quite have the same novel whimsy function of like an egg boiling egg timer or blood intake tracking bezel or something like that. So I mean, I love the way it looks. I'd happily sit around with a black light and have some fun with this, but like, is this just a standard 3-hand movement?
It looks
It's
to be.
standard, yeah. Yeah, the case back shot reveals. But I also was going to say that I wish they, it would be cool, so cool if they worked with Pioneer DJ on this, and they actually did. It's called Alpha Theta now, so not Pioneer, but they worked with a designer from Pioneer DJ, which is very cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's true that this would have been great to have some type of special complication, but it would be something electronic. It wouldn't be a mechanical thing. I mean, having like a music tempo chart on there would be really cool. That's what I'd like to see, where you can see the tempo of the music right on the dial of your watch.
Well, that, or you could also just kind of reimagine a tachymeter scale to work with like the beats per minute. There's certain, if you especially if you slowed the gearing of this chronograph hand. But I think there's a lot of ways you could go with it. But knowing that this was work designed in collaboration with one of the designers from Pioneer, it does look very similar. The colors of the mirrored dial in under the black light very much resemble like the blue lights on like the platters and screens of a CDJ. So I do see that inspiration.
And this designer, it says that he primarily designs for the Astron collection of watches. So that's pretty cool. So that was the 2024 incredibly specialized watch exhibition, otherwise known as the Seiko Power Design Project. Those are the 6 watches, and you can see more on the aBlogtoWatch website. Let's go back to aBlogtoWatch. Big article that we just published moments before we started recording, and that is one of our year in review articles. This one is called Team aBlogtoWatch's Picks Our Favorite New Watch Releases of 2024. We want you to go ahead and read the article to go ahead and see why we thought what we did, and we are going to go over what the watches are. I think the most important thing is like discuss what exactly goes into this. How do we decide what a watch release of the year is? Because it's not necessarily your one favorite or the best. For me, it was like, what was something that stuck out throughout the year that was better than other watches like it? Because we often see many watches that are similar in the same category, that if you had the money would be cool to get. It's sort of what's your grail watch of the year, not what's the most practical. Maybe other people went different ways with it, but that's what I did. Gentlemen, how did you approach answering this question?
I mean, I say it in the article, but I always approach these like favorite watch release of the year kind of from the same perspective. It's not the watch I would actually buy myself when money mattered. I probably bought that watch for myself this year, and it'd be a sub $1,000 thing I could actually wear all the time. So for me, I always approach it from the mentality of, you're given a blank check. You have to spend whatever you want. It's blank on one watch, only one watch. You won't ever be able to sell it. So don't worry about resale value or, rarity or anything like that. It's just that one thing that you would want to own forever and have to keep, but it wouldn't cost you anything to own. So what would it be? And, obviously that puts it, my choice is categorically expensive. But yeah, I chose a honey gold longa. So yeah, that, kind of tells you where I was going with that. David, how about yourself?
I think it's very interesting that you chose something that's been around for quite some time. Maybe not in this configuration, but it just shows the appeal of the Tideograph. Of course, it's way overboard, right? With the perpetual and the tourbillon and the honey gold, it's like longer.
And the luminous smoke sapphire dial. Yeah, I mean, because I think some of the novelty of certain watches that I'm like floored by when I see them early in the year would have worn off come 10, 20 years down the line. And this is just conservative enough that it's like not crazy. It's not like that wild rainbow Hublot, but at the same time, it's so baller. It's all the cool stuff, that rare stuff Longa does rolled into one watch. So although the model itself isn't unique, it's a breathtaking execution of it. And, I think I would always be happy to own this and just fondle it or wear it if it were in my possession.
It's extremely cool. And send it back for a $4,000 service every 2 years.
Dude, $4,000, I would be happy with 4. It's probably quite a bit more.
I was going to say, don't quote me on that, but that was just a guesstimate. Yeah.
So David, You did something that all of us did is, basically choose something we can't buy. Yours at no price. I didn't even know this, but you chose the incredibly specialized watches. I guess the whole set
Yes,
of them.
before the news came out of the new one, so I thought that this whole thing would be gone for years, and so I chose this before the news of this year's edition came in.
Oh, okay. Because I think, because the news of last year kind of came this year.
Yeah.
So, okay, so you've been a big fan of these. Now, has Seiko ever gone and made these watches? I mean, I feel like I've never got a proper answer to this. I think in the past they may have, but I don't know.
I don't think that they've made any of these. So what it used to be is that it was in fact called the Seiko Power Design Project, and they started it in 2001, suspended it in 2009, and revived it in 2022, and then it got somehow renamed to this incredibly specialized watch exhibition thing. But it's of course a whole word salad for Seiko, and you just don't know.
But they do
what
exist, so there's a chance that either through incredible luck, money, or a heist, you could own these in many. Imagine if all your watches were just Seiko Power Design Project watches. You just had the few, the 100 they made so far.
Yeah, like the hide and seek watch from Seiko for hiding and seeking.
Or the Pandagraph.
Or the Pandagraph. It's really, really a truly fantastic thing. And just as you pointed out, it was so cool to see the guys and girls behind this. So people who design it and to learn what is it that they do on a daily basis at Seiko, and see, the person who might have designed your Grand Seiko or your prospects or whatever. So it really brought me closer to the brand. It was such a cool exercise, and it also shows the might of Seiko in the sense that they have the facilities and the ability to craft these things to apparently very high quality. I'm not sure that these could be put into production at a reasonable price, and maybe that's against Seiko's policy or something like that. But I do genuinely believe that there should be maybe a vote from the community or something like that, and one of these should be made just for fun. If they made all of them, that would just drive Swatch out of business basically, because this is where you would go for fun with watches.
Yeah, they definitely are teasing us with something like that. I struggled with this one, but ultimately I decided on a watch that came out at the very beginning of 2024. So it really was on my mind pretty much the entire year. And it's the Hublot MP10 Tourbillon, which is about as boring of a name as you could get for a cool high-end watch like this. This watch is an attempt to reinvent the automatic winding system by using these two weights that travel up and down, as known in sort of a linear position as opposed to a circular position as a rotor. It has a tourbillon, which is also mounted on the side, not the first time that Hublot has done this. And it tells the time on these turning drums for the hours and the minutes, and there's a power reserve indicator, and it tells the seconds. It really just tells the time with power reserve. I think what I liked about this so much was I write about this, it's not influenced by anything else. It doesn't look like cars, doesn't look like planes. It's just a nerdy high-end watch completely inspired by its own culture. And it's comfortable. It's very, very novel. It's remarkably legible for what it is. It's futuristic in a way which I think is more utopian versus dystopian. Like it'd be, there's something also kind of, I think, tactical, military, techie about it. It doesn't have a bunch of superfluous forms on it. So it feels, as wild as it is, it feels oddly utilitarian. It really feels like a machine of the future rather than some of the other complicated watches, which just seem complicated for complicated sake, right? Like a Grubel Force doesn't look like a machine that anybody would ever use in any time period. It just looks like a nice high-end object. Whereas I can see something like this in some science fiction movie just looking like the watch that so-and-so's wearing. And so I think that a combination of factors, as well as just how steeped in horology culture this is, made this one of the favorites, as well as how Hublot had no idea how to market it. You guys weren't there. I was at the presentation, and I'd never had at Hublot presentation just the movement engineers. No one else at the company would dare talk about it. So they had to bring over the guys that designed it, and they had this PowerPoint presentation, and it was like the most Japanese style presentation from a Swiss watch brand I've ever had, because I've never seen a PowerPoint presentation for Hublot. It's just never happened before.
No.
Um,
Usually it's like a fireworks and and a bunch of food and like
yeah,
maybe two
just
words
like,
about a watch.
okay,
Yeah, we
someone's
made this.
talking on stage. Here's a celebrity. Okay, everybody eat. The music's
Blue
going on now. Now
ceramic.
get out of
Bon
here. Enjoy
appetit. Yeah.
yeah. Um, for me, this also reminds me of like why Hublot is still a brand that has a lot of interesting thing for consumers. It gets a lot of heat here and there, and they come out with some silly stuff, but they continue to do things like this that I think cement them as being an important company. Sorry for saying so much about it, but that's why I chose the MP10 as one of my favorite watches of 2024.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's a fantastic piece. Like you said, it could just completely integrate onto the set of any sci-fi film as, a functional item. And, Hublot gets a lot of hate, but I think someone in the comments on the review you wrote said, if this said MB&F on it, people would feel completely differently, which is probably true. But I also think, MB&F sort of takes a very sort of like sci-fi fanciful approach. This is very much more kind of intentional and utilitarian. It's not like a little space house or a pirate ship or something. It's it's this giant block of mechanics and sapphire and unapologetically modern.
Yeah, and I loved it. I can't afford it's I think nearly how much was this thing? It's either like just under 200,000 or just way more than that.
Yeah, I was going to say it's either 150 or 450. There's nothing in between. So choose whichever you want.
Okay. 250,000 Swiss francs. So whatever
wrong.
that is in dollars. Yeah. Again, we all chose watches that we either can't buy or can't afford. In any event, they are out of touch. But that's what liking watches is. It's about the dream, right? It's about the aspiration. Let's talk about a couple of other things here. Here's something else which tells the time is not a watch. I had a kick just playing with this thing. Ed from the team and myself were with ST Dupont when looking at this thing. This is a collaboration product. This is ST Dupont, which is a Paris-based mainly lighter company. They make a whole universe of lighters. It's pretty crazy. And Franck Muller. No, I don't think so. No. Okay. I think it's its own thing. Franck Muller, of course, is a Swiss watch company, and they made a lighter called the Master Complication lighter that has a mechanical movement as inside of the lighter, and it's not the biggest thing in the world, but it's definitely larger and far heavier than your average Bic. It's a cigar style lighter in this configuration. They may have others that have jets and things like that. That essentially means two flames for heating up a cigar faster. Wouldn't be good for all purposes. These are expensive. I think that's what's kind of amazing about it. It's the cost of a decent car. There's and again, they're impressive. They got the little clang sound when you open the lid. They're very, very nice. Really, really well done here. And depending on the style, like the colors, they range in price from $66,000 to $76,000. Hard not to love these, but like, wow. Do you think that someone could come out with like a $5,000 watch lighter and just do really well and undercut it? Like, what's the market for this stuff? Because people seem to like this, but I just feel like there's some happy medium.
Being extremely expensive and being extremely outrageously super expensive. Well,
I mean, do you need like decent Mercedes money for a lighter with a mechanical watch in it? This is very nicely executed. I'm not saying that
of course.
You could do too much better than this, but I'm just wondering if this is now something for other brands to investigate. This is done in a very classy way. There could be very unclassy ways of combining a lighter and a timepiece. Just go online and search for wristwatch cigarette lighter, and you'll know what I'm talking about.
There's a bunch, yeah.
This
Go
is
ahead,
like I mean, it's awesome. If I was given this, I would happily own it and profusely thank whatever member of royalty or whatever bestowed this upon me. But it is such a novelty, just in concept, regardless of execution or materials or anything, that I personally wouldn't want to. I mean, I would love to have the really nice one, but I would love to see like Sega Design or your favorite AliExpress brand try to put one of these together, because it's not something I would use often. I don't need the world's best lighter or the most accurate watch, but it would be kind of cool to see a really cheap rendition of this that someone could enjoy at like below $1,000, like not 60, 70, but not even 5,000, like, a few $100s. This could be a really cool novelty. But I also imagine that if there was any leak in the tank, you're getting lighter fluid into the movement, and that can be a whole, I don't know what the service protocol is on that.
What are some complications you could build in to make this even fancier? I mean, I think some of the traditional complications don't make sense. I think a minute repeater would be cool. A chronograph could be dumb.
Tourbillon.
Like if it would chime anytime you used it or something like that, that would be
Well, it
annoying,
kind of does. When you open the lid, it makes a sound that sounds like a gong. They call it the clang. It's like a nice little ding sound. It actually has that sound.
But well, yeah, what if David's idea, when you pull the lever to open the lid and start the fire, it just like a minute repeater chimes out, the hours, quarters, minutes, and
that's what I meant.
You know exactly at what time you lit your cigar.
Okay, that's true. But then every time you want to open it, like, oh, it's got to go through the process first. Oh, I got to wind it first. Oh, I accidentally broke the minute repeater by trying to light something.
No, let it ring while the flames emit. The flame can stay lit for the duration that the thing's chiming. So as you light your lighters and light your friends' lighters at your holiday office party or whatever, it's chiming out the time, and they can bask in the glory of Franck Muller.
What if there's a little automata where there's a little scene, and the scene is what the fire's supposed to come from? There's like a little person, like, hitting an axe against flint or something like that. Just some silly thing like that. I don't know.
Guy fanning the flames.
Yeah, bellows or something like that. Just a little like cartoon hamster pushing bellows or something like that.
Yes, Jacques Edreau could do an exceptional one of these.
Yeah, why do you need a bird singing? Make the bird breathe fire like we all want.
The dragon lighter. I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Now we're talking.
Meanwhile, Jacob and Coast just avidly taking notes while listening to this. Catalog 2026, 2027.
You remember on, I think it was the MB&F Space Pirate that had the little dome that opens. Imagine that you unscrew it, the little dome opens up, and boom, flames come out. You remember the watch I'm talking about? If you don't,
what I want is like a watch to be a safety hazard. That's what we need.
Well, this actually is of concern. How easy would this be to travel? So the folks from D1 Milano at Watches and Wonders gave us a little lighter, and I didn't check a bag on my return from Geneva, and that was confiscated with me because the flame was too big, or it was the wrong kind of flame for Switzerland or something like that. But like, I was happy to go, oh no, you took my swag lighter, on with my day. I would cancel my flight rather than give up my $76,000 Franck Muller lighter.
So this like thing opened up here to reveal the tourbillon, but you could also do that where, I don't know, flame came out. I'm just saying, the parts are there.
Parts are there.
Well, and
literally arms reach away.
Yeah, look at all those apertures. You could easily have one of those be a fuel tank in that.
How could MB&F go so long, so many years without something spitting flames? Now that is the question of today. And whether Rick is Santa Claus. Those two, I didn't
Fire is the next complication.
Yes. Now we
talked about watches that could resist fire. Now watches that create fire.
It all goes in one circle. We're honoring humanity's first technology with all of our micro-mechanical technologies.
Imagine how dumb a vignette dial sounds after this.
Moving on to a slightly different complication, but one that's also equally hard to do. This is the Baume Mercier Riviera Tideograph. This is a version of the Riviera that has a tide chart indicator, not exactly the right term for they call it a Tideograph, which I guess is correct. And I like this complication, but also every time I see it, I think to myself, wow, a smartwatch does this better. Because this is one of the most finicky complications to do manually. You need to learn a bunch of information in advance to set it properly, similar like to other, like an astronomical complication. Then and only then will it be accurate, and only in a specific part of the world. You have to change it for other places. There's a button on the side. It's not the hardest thing to do, but it's like you have to prepare in advance for your day at the beach or the ocean for this to be useful. But there's not a lot of watches that do this, and brands like to have something that is not, super popular, except those times where all they want is something which is popular. And for about $5,000, you too can enjoy, theoretically, an accurate view of the tide on your wrist. Gentlemen, what do you think about this version of the Riviera?
It kind of looks like a dress watch put on a Hublot's clothes as far as its aesthetics, which which isn't a bad thing. I like Hublot quite a bit. But the complication itself, I think, should just look cooler. Like, if you're going to put a complication that's cumbersome to use and most people are never going to set anyway, you have to make it look cool, like kind of like a moon phase complication. Regardless of whether or not you set it, you kind of get the same effect on your watch. Nice little starry sky with the moon. Looks pretty. This just kind of looks like a weird running seconds indicator, and I think if they just made it look cooler, even if the mechanics were the same and it was equally useless in real-world functionality, it might allude to the spirit of the Tide. But if you didn't tell me this was a Tide watch and you just gave this to me, I'd ask you what, like, weird GMT complication thing was on the subdial with the 12-hour scale.
I agree. One of the things I'd like is to separate this into two parts. One is whether or not the tide is going up or down. That's relevant. And then where it is along the progression of, is it as high as it's going to go? Is it as low as it's going to go? And I feel that they try to do both of those things with one scale. And it's probably more fun if you do it in another scale. You could have like a little surfer, right? And the surfer is like pointing up if the tide's going up and sort of pointing down. You could do little funny things with what direction the tide is going. But maybe that's one of the answers to what you're saying, because I think we've seen other ones in the past and they all basically tried to do the same thing, just with different graphics.
Yeah, it looks neatly executed. I like the pinion for it, the cap on it. I think it's like quite nice. The textures on the subdial. Overall, it's a neat execution. You can tell that they've worked on this. I'm just not sure whether this makes any sense, or if anyone's going to be like, okay, now this is what I want. I hope they sell a bunch of them, but I'm just not sure where it's gonna go.
Yeah, it's a little weird to read because it's like, I'm not sure, do I look at the numerals around the side to see the time of day? Because other than that round sphere, which I don't know if does that represent the moon? I don't know what that represents actually. Yeah. I'm not really sure how to read this thing.
Because you don't know tide charts or tideographs, but I'm sure there's a manual for it.
I got accustomed to these easy digital. Even the digital one, like on the Apple Watch, for example, there's a tide chart which I find very interesting. But I'm still not always sure how to use it. I mean, I understand the basics, it's going down and stuff like that, but there's information there I don't understand. So admittedly, someone out there, take me alone in your boat and teach me about the tides.
Yeah, and answer this for me while you're alone in a boat with Ariel. I don't need to be in the boat. You can just have Ariel relay the information.
Okay.
But presumably it works on like a 12-hour scale of the tides going up and down, because it's graduated to 12 hours. But if you knew all of the information about the tide in your locale enough to set this in the first place, couldn't you just know like high tides at 7 a.m. and like plan accordingly based on that? Like if it's so cyclical that, or is this doing some complex geometry in there to sort of account for it? Or is this something that could be done much easier if you just knew when the tide was in the first place, not having to keep track of it like that and just remember high tides at 7?
Do you not have one of those Casio fisherman watches that can help explain this information?
Well, I do, and it's got a moon phase. Yeah, but it also tells me there's fish in a parking lot, like a Walmart parking lot in landlocked like New Mexico.
Maybe there are.
Yes, they're in the supermarket at Walmart. Come on, man.
There you go. Said it would help you find fish. It wasn't more specific than that. What do we think about the Baumatic, which is their automatic movement? I like this thing. They don't really talk too much about it. It's got pretty robust anti-magnetic qualities. It's got 5 days a power reserve. It's not the newest movement. It's been out for several years right now, but I feel like I never hear anyone talking about the Baumatic or Baume Mercier at all. Is that because they've been doing zero communication, which they haven't been doing any communication, or is something wrong with these? Because I feel that there's something to these Rivieras and Baume Merciers with this relatively decent movement.
I think they need to communicate more. Look how much communication Oris went into for its caliber 400. Like that, they've gone to great lengths to explain what's different about that movement and why they did it and all of that. Unless it just speaks for itself and comes from a brand that's known for it, I think an overt amount of communication is needed to explain movement nuances to the public. And I mean, if case in point is just look at Omega with the coaxial, it's an inherent part of watch names and everything, but like, they didn't do that because it was going to be something they could market to people coherently. They did it because they believed in the tech, but it's a horribly cumbersome thing to try to explain to a non-enthusiast who just walks into the street and wants a Seamaster.
I mean, even most enthusiasts don't get it either.
Yeah, very true.
It took me a while to quite figure it out, but the story of coaxial for another discussion. Let's see what else we got here.
I mean, with regards to the Baumatic, it's really interesting. It's like we've seen Richemont allow Baume Mercier to create strong products that, were well priced, cool movement, whatever, and then they sort of force them to make them ugly. When they first debuted this, they were like, no, you can't have everything. You can't have it at a decent price with a cool movement and make it look good, because then that would hurt Cartier and all the other brands. And then slowly they have somehow struggled and got away with making a Baumatic equipped Baume Mercier watches prettier. But now they're not allowed to talk about them, which is also ridiculous because this would be like a decent proposition in all kinds of ways. But we also know that the Baumatic has fitted to other more expensive watches within the group, right? So somehow it's just, I think they are like, well, we let Baume Mercier have it and call it the Baumatic, which is kind of lame because they have essentially allowed their cheapest brand to put their name on a movement which they then fitted to other watches like IWCs and stuff. So and many others. So it's kind of backwards, and I feel like, okay, you can have the good price, you can have the decent design, you can have the good movement, but you're not allowed to talk about it. It's always like this with Richemont when it comes to outstanding products. They very rarely allow themselves to have something that is truly outstanding in every way because they feel like, I think, that it would cannibalize their other more expensive or other products from other brands. And so what we end up having is a bunch of more or less compromised answers to the same question, which would be an amazing watch or an amazing proposition. They are just not allowed to have all of these at once.
So in other words, Baume Mercier, if you're listening, even if your parents don't want you to call David, call David. He wants to hear from you.
Yeah, call me on a Sunday.
And call others. Just
not
be more communicative, even if your parents aren't too into it. Okay.
Call me in the morning on a Sunday. Yeah.
This is a watch that kind of came out of left field. Ripley, I'm going to let you chat about this more because you wrote the article on it, but it is the Zenith Defy Extreme Jungle Watch, which is, I'm guessing, titanium, and it has a green strap with what looks like wooden elements. I'll let Ripley say if this is real wood or not.
Oh, it is not wood.
Oh boy,
we are going to the jungle, the extreme jungle. So this is the third and final installment in the Zenith Defy Extreme Elements series. The first one was dedicated...
Didn't know that was a series?
I didn't either. The first one was dedicated to the desert, and it embraced the stone falcon's eye. The second one from last year was the glacier. It had a pale blue transparent stone that I'm not going to try to pronounce on air. And now we get the jungle version. So titanium case, Zenith Defy, but the pusher-like shroud guards and the lower ring of the bezel are crafted from tiger's eye stone. Which is cool. I don't know how structurally sound that's going to be. But yeah, it's got stone, semi-precious stone case components amid its titanium. You still get 200 meters water resistance. The dial, it's a transparent sapphire dial, but they've done tiger stripe rings on the chronograph registers and treated the green the center section green, so it's a bright, transparent green color. And then, of course, it is a Zenith Defy Extreme, so you get that super high-frequency chronograph with 2 escapements. One's basically like a regular El Primero, so you get 5 hertz and about 50 hours, and then you get a second escapement that runs at 10 times the speed, so 50 hertz, and it gives you it'll run for about 50 minutes until you have to resupply tension. But because of that super high speed chronograph, the central hand makes 1 rotation every second. So it's just like the Defy Extreme Chrono from a mechanical perspective, but you now get the Extreme Jungle version with stone carved pusher frames and bezel, which is, I mean, it looks like an Hublot, but I think it's absolutely awesome. Again, any Hublot comparisons are a good thing when I say them.
I don't doubt that there's a lot of merits to this watch. It's not the prettiest in the world by any means, but it's interesting looking and it has reason to exist. I think what bothers me about this is that the movement seems to belong to Tag Heuer and the case seems to belong to Hublot, as you said. I don't know that I see too much Zenith in there other than the high frequency movement, which is honestly just a toy when it comes down to how people use it. And I just wonder if this belongs in the Zenith that we want. Zenith is obviously going to be restructured. I think there's new management and stuff like that. I like them a little bit more as a classic watch brand. Not that they have to make old style watches, just nothing with the word extreme in it. And I wonder if the brand needs this. At Richemont you have brands that don't want to compete with one another, and then sometimes at LVMH you seem like they all want to do the same thing. I don't necessarily know what to make of the positioning. If there's people out there who feel like this is the Zenith they want, that's fine. I'm not saying it's a bad watch. It's actually, compared to some Hublots, well priced because they have this high frequency movement, and it's, around the same price as one of the fancier, limited edition Big Bangs. But again, I don't know if this is what the Zenith brand should be focusing on. I mean, I remember years ago when Jean-Claude Biver was the CEO of Zenith for a little while, the interim CEO of Zenith for a little while. And I remember sitting him down. I was like, what are you going to do with Zenith? And he literally, this is the first time I've ever heard him just say, I have no idea. Wow. He had no idea. The man with the plan had no idea. And I joked. I was like, why don't you just rename the company El Primero? I was like, yeah, that's probably a good idea. Because I get it. It's like, it's the brand that everyone likes, but no one has one Zenith watch they want. Everyone's like, yeah, of course, Zenith. I love Zenith. Which one do you want? And then for years, you'd see the Zeniths that people had, they fell into one of two camps. It was either the highly discounted model that they got for a really good deal, or it was like one of those super nerdy, like vintage revival watches, which were cool, but expensive and only for like a certain demographic. And those guys that were buying those vintage revival ones, zero interest in this, this big Defy Extreme type of deal that costs, about $27,000. So it's like, I feel like this watch in theory has merit to exist. But again, guys, tell me if I'm wrong. Why from Zenith?
I actually really like that they do this stuff. This isn't the only Zenith I want. That would be not good for anybody. But I like that they're not just this classic brand. Like, they could so easily just become this sort of heritage brand and just sort of do these vintage revival pieces and these traditional iterations of their classic designs. But, I don't think that really is all that interesting. It's lovely, but it's not all that interesting. I kind of like how they give you the old stuff. Like, you can get a modern El Primero that very closely recalls the appearance of an original one. And then you can get this thing, which looks like a mashup of multiple different LVMH brands, and it's entirely uncharacteristic. But it is the uber modern, flagrant, it's the total opposite of the other side of their catalog. So while it does seem disjointed and doesn't necessarily lend itself to a cohesive brand image, it's part of the reason why I still find Zenith interesting, because they do stuff like this where it's a complete surprise on the heels of something like, the Defy Shadow, where it's, classic proportions, but in a titanium matte case. So kind of a modern version of a classic. So I love that they do this stuff. If they only did this stuff, it'd be bad. But I don't know. It's whimsy. It's a limited edition. Why not? It's about as practical as Tiger's Eye Stone chronograph pusher guards.
Honestly, the limited edition features is less what I'm worried about. Again, I don't disagree with you. I just think there's there's multiple opinions you can have on the matter. I am typically the type of opinion that says I'm glad they're doing different stuff. I just, from a branding perspective, I can't help but wonder if a different thing is due for Zenith. It's a feeling I have. I'm just one opinion. David, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think they've really tried since their latest restart. I was not that very impressive as others were, with Dufour's era when it was like all vintage revival stuff. And sure, that was easy, I think, to do. What they're doing now is hard. It's difficult to come up with new designs. And yes, there's still a touch of beware with all these, like whenever he created this mishmash between Tag Heuer, Hublot, and Zenith, where all of them had the same integrated case design. That was a tremendous mistake, I think, in terms of branding and design and all the rest of it. But they had to stick with it because you cannot recreate your identity every 2 years. So I'm a little bit worried when it comes to that. I think they are onto something. I really don't want to see Zenith lose its creativity under the new leadership. Like this latest one, the Extreme Jungle, as stupid as that name is. I really like the colors. I really like how they approached the materials, the textures, all the rest of it. I hope that will survive. Zenith used to be a trailblazer brand, and I don't want to see them become this very safe and tame Jaeger LeCoultre number 2 when oh, look at the stuff we made 60 years ago. Do you not care? And I really genuinely don't. I care about what is it that they can do today to amaze me, and they have created a bunch of things that are amazing and impressive and highly creative. They are just a little bit too large to be on trend, so I think that's something that needs to be redone. I like their slogan, I like their brand, I like their logo. I think overall it's all there. It's just what they do with it to take it into this next, hopefully, decade of consistency is the question here. That's my quick take on it. And please don't copy others. I mean, it's like I'm scrolling through here and I see all these like Daytona copies. I even reviewed one of them. Just don't do that. Leave that to somebody else.
The many opinions of what Zenith should be. Let's move on to a brand that we also have a lot of opinions about. Casio has shrunken down their style to a ring. This is the Casio CRW001-1 ring watch, teased earlier in the year, finally available for sale in Japan, coming to the rest of the world soon. This is a ring that has a movement inside of it. It tells the time and a couple of other features. And Ripley, I think you should talk about why so many people are excited about this ring.
Yeah, I mean, we think of Casio now, they're like an electronics giant, but the very first Casio invention, the very first product was a ring pipe. It was like a pipe with like a cigarette holder on it, and it was so you could have your hands free while smoking. Yeah, like 1946, a lot has changed for the brand since then. But it's been 50 years of Casio watches, and so part of the celebration for the 50 years of Casio making watches is to make a ring to honor the first product, and it is a very well executed ring that looks like a 5000 series full metal G-Shock. So a couple interesting things as far as the production of it. The ring itself and the bezel and everything, the case, are all a single piece of stainless steel. This is a really intricate shape to make. It might not be possible, or certainly not cost effective, to machine it on a multi-axis CNC. So what they've done is a like laser, or it's called like, it's machine metal injection molding. So they take stainless steel powder, they combine it with a binding agent, they then press that into the mold of this shape. Then the binding agent's removed, and then it's sintered together to create a single solid piece of stainless steel in a highly intricate shape that wouldn't be possible to be milled at a scale at a cost-effective manner. So well done to them on that. So it's stainless steel. You get a mineral glass crystal, so this isn't the standard resin G-Shock. But in my opinion, the coolest thing is that they've completely shrunken down a module to fit in it, and that includes everything from the light to the modes. So you get a dual time feature, it's stopwatch, it's got this programmable alarm kind of novelty thing where they'll sort of light up and flash at a set point during the day. So it's not like a time only movement. They've really kind of shrunken down the watch. The band itself is fixed, so it's not adjustable. It's about like a 10.5, but it does include a set of spacers to contract that size a bit for those who want to wear it.
David, you're laughing a lot here. It's cool, but what's amusing to you about this?
I was just laughing at that cigarette holder. I thought that was absolutely hilarious. That whole picture and the functionality or like thereof of that thing was just drove me up the wall in a good way. I think that's positively hilarious. The golden bat and all the rest of it, and with ash falling on your fingers and stuff, that's hilarious.
I mean, this all comes full circle back to the lighter, because many people don't know that Casio made lighter gadgets for a long time. Probably the most famous are the calculator lighters that they made, which are quite rare at this point, but cool. There's cheap ones that are made today, but they tried to do
cool.
They're gadgets. They're convenience gadgets. I need to smoke and calculate. Why not have them both in one thing? The G-Shock as we know it is effectively a continuation of that theme, where what have they done? But for many years, taken more and more stuff and put it into a small package. It's a multifunction gadget. That's really a huge part of this. So it's really, really relevant to what they've done. It's sort of funny that all you need to do is take something that's a little bit bigger and make it smaller, and instantly people love it. Like, you don't have to do anything else. You just make something smaller. I don't even think people are excited because this is fashionable. I don't know if it is. Maybe it is. But it's just like, oh, that thing I like but smaller? Yes, I have to be interested in that. Why are we so into that as consumers?
It's a really good question. Why? I genuinely don't know. I think it's just cool. I don't use a calculator, and I don't smoke, and yet I want a calculator, and that I didn't know I needed 2 minutes ago. So now I have to go and get myself a calculator just so that it's here at the desk, and just like I play around.
Calculator.
With it.
It's fate. It's destined to be together.
Yeah. Well, it was meant to be. This ring is kind of fun. I think it's going to repel women if they see you wear a Casio.
What if it's gold and there's a giant diamond sticking out of the sides of it? You remember that Casio watch you have diamonds, David? Maybe this is the new Casio timepiece product that needs to have diamonds.
Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. Even, especially if you wear it with a full metal G-Shock on your wrist. I mean, that's the full set. Let's be honest. How much is this again?
$120.
Wow. So it's kind of pricey. Okay. Cool.
I mean, we got it. Those Japanese engineers. You gotta pay them to keep inventing stuff. Those ring smoking devices don't make themselves.
It would be nice if they included one of the ring smoking devices with the watch as an anniversary set. That would.
Or if this new system had a place to store, why not have a version of it that has the little bird pipe sticking out of it? It looks
so many endless
like
possibilities here.
Kind of bird style there. Yeah, it's we love this stuff. I think it's fantastic that Casio came out with this, and how ironically linked to their history that it is. That's the funniest thing. Not just as cool, but it's cool in a way that like Swiss marketers can justify. Not that
you do you, Casio. Well, seriously, don't ever stop.
Yeah, don't ever stop. And I think this is just such a Casio execution of this. Something I really admire about the brand is whether you're getting their absolute cheapest watch or one of those multi-$1,000 G-Shocks, they're always really functional. Everything the brand makes, from calculators to synthesizers, it's always good value for what it is, but first and foremost, it's always functional. So the ring watch by itself, by definition of the product category, is such a novelty. But of course, they wouldn't just phone it in and make the most basic standard version. They're using, they're sintering metal. They're using metal injection molding. They're using a fully fledged module in there. It's just, of course, it's functional. This is like probably one of the most functional and robust ring watches you can get. But yet it's such a novelty, but it's so well thought out. It's kind of amazing.
It really is. Well done.
Let's move on to one more watch because people have holidays to celebrate or something like that. This is a limited edition YIMA, and I always laugh every time I say the name. It's the Wristmaster Slim, haha, CMM20, again limited edition, which doesn't really describe what's special about this watch. And I think what's interesting to me is what they did is they began with a normal steel case and bracelet. They then had someone by hand just scrape the hell out of it. Okay. It's, that's really what it is. It's brushing, but in like all different directions. So it's basically just all scraped up, but done in an artistic, consistent way where it's not like one side of it looks way more brushed than the other. It's yet relatively uniform and nice. Then when they're done with all that, they put a PVD application on it, right? So they put a small layer of just a few microns of a material on there. And that is transparent enough to show the finishing, adds, of course, that kind of dark gray color, but also makes it a bit smoother. Because you can imagine if you scratch a watch like this up, it's going to be pretty sharp to the touch, and this isn't. So the standard Wristmaster Slim is just, again, it's cool shape, cool bracelet, has their in-house micro rotor automatic movement, but standard steel case, right? This one, and even look at even the movement has bridges that are done in a way that sort of melds with this. The dial, it's a bit harder to see, but the dial also has the same brushing on there. So it's amazingly consistent case, bracelet, dial, and the movement isn't brushed, but it has, again, some special texturing that makes it look cool. It's got, as I said, their in-house movement, which is made in France, literally right across the Swiss border. So it's like the same professionals, the same region where all the Swiss watchmaking is done, but it's in France, so they charge less. About $2,500, watch is 39 millimeters wide. As the name implies, it's not very thick. It's 9 millimeters thick. I enjoyed this watch a lot. I don't know if I wear it every single day, but it's comfortable enough to wear every single day. And it's a cool style. Not everyone seemed to understand it in the comments, but I was generally satisfied with this timepiece. What do you guys think?
Well, the name sounds like a failed 90s rapper, Wristmaster Slim with his boombox and AP, but I quite like this. I think this is an awesome looking watch. It kind of reminds me of the Marble Bulgari, the only watch piece, but not nearly as fragile, and probably would wear some scratches and wear quite well. But I think it's a novel case finish. It looks cool. At a glance, you don't really know what it is, or is it carbon? Is it, it's metallic? I think it's cool. It gets you asking questions, and it's not terribly expensive considering what you're getting, so I quite like it.
It only costs $200 more for this limited edition.
That's cool.
It just seems like there's more than $200 of work, is all I'm saying.
Yeah, or somebody's paying to be scratching these things. Maybe it's like, these rage rooms or something like that where you go in and just smash stuff. Maybe
these are the reject parts, and all they have to do is coat them in a machine and put it together.
Yeah, there are these rooms where you pay and you go in there with a baseball bat and beat stuff up, right? We should do that for watches, and you could just go in there and just scratch stuff. I think,
but rather than the physical exertion that comes with smashing a refrigerator with a baseball bat, you sit at a desk with tiny little movements.
Yes.
Is this like a passive aggressive approach to destroying an appliance with a tool? Like what? Like,
Yeah,
who
this
does it
is
on
the
such a
watch
micro scale?
Yeah,
watch enthusiast equivalent.
yeah, let the intrusive thoughts win. Just hold that sapphire watch and drop it on the concrete floor. You know, this is just taking the screwdriver and just putting a
Ugh.
ding in the Zaratsu polish
Okay.
thing. Yeah, this is just about letting that out so you don't do it at the boutique.
Here's what we do for Watches and Wonders Geneva. We do an aBlogtoWatch pop-up horological bash room, basically, where we charge 50 Swiss francs for 5 minutes in there. We take a bunch of watches we don't like or need, and just let people beat them up. Just let it out of your system, basically, during Watches and Wonders. Wouldn't that be that's how we get rich? This is it.
Okay, second idea. It's sponsored by Casio G-Shock, and the grand irony is no one can break the watches. They just go in there, go ham for 5 minutes, leave, and we have a bunch of working pieces still there.
And the grand irony of irony is this is how G-Shock gets into Watches and Wonders. Because they're never invited.
Sometime
see?
I have to tell everybody about the idea. I don't know if you guys remember. You remember my idea? We never did this, but Ultimate Watch Warriors. That I actually got Casio to approve sponsoring if we did it.
Really?
Yes. Yes. But I will tell. Maybe I'll tell the story sometime. But it actually involved a special catapult device that would hurl two watches against one another, and part of the test was which one survives.
Love it. It's like
We need to
Conquerors,
make
or
it.
what is the name of this game?
I had called it Ultimate Watch Warriors.
Love it.
But that's for, again, another conversation. But you're right. It does look like someone had some stress relief with these EMA Wristmaster Slims and decided, oh, there's art here. But, look, what I like about this is it's unexpected. You're right. We wouldn't have thought this would come from any brand, let alone Yima. It's a bit left field. Also, and Ripley said this, when you look at it, you're not quite sure what you're looking at. And I think that that's part of the allure. Like, you don't know what material it is. You don't even know what it would feel like. And that's kind of interesting. I am of the opinion that these sort of organic textures lend a huge amount of fashionability. They make watches prettier than if it was a uniform surface. Of course, there's some beautiful watches that, of course, have uniform surfaces, but this is a different take on it. So I actually think this is a successful experiment. I don't think you can really appreciate it as well unless you handle it, because the sort of way it plays with the light, especially how soft it is, right? Because it looks like it's sharper than it is. It's remarkably friendly to touch. I forget exactly how many pieces of limited edition they're doing. It's not that many. But what I think is cool about this 200 pieces, I think this is a cool experiment watch. This is clearly an experiment that Yima did. You have no idea if they'll do it again. I'm sure if we asked them about it, they'll say it was such a pain in the ass and they wanted to get done. They had this good idea. But I mean, no doubt these are going to be more difficult and probably cost them more to produce. Maybe they did it as a way of getting people more interested in the Wristmaster Slim. But if you're looking for interesting stuff, which is genuinely fashionable, and it has that kind of appeal like a Bulgari, it's got a nice, simple dial, elegant shape. I was just, if it was the standard Wristmaster Slim, I would not be as excited. Still a cool watch, but not, I wouldn't be as Wristmastery about it.
Yeah, it's a good call on the Bulgari similarity. I couldn't put my finger on that, but it does have a Bulgari vibe to it. Although Bulgari would never call their watch a Wristmaster Slim, and it is true.
Should we just rename it? What would
Whatever.
you guys call this? Because we can't use any part of Wristmaster Slim CMM.220. None of that works.
The whole name needs to be discarded.
Yeah. Okay. Watch marketers out there, submit your ideas.
The
And
bar is
Ema,
currently low, so don't be shy.
Yeah, and free input. You don't have to take the advice, but we highly recommend it.
Yeah, please don't use the word master or extreme in it.
Yeah, extreme is also heritage, please. There's a
Yeah.
moratorium on the term heritage, okay? But it's actually really great that Yema's doing this stuff. Just 3 or 4 years ago, this
Very
company
cool.
was not at all on my radar. I mean, I knew about it. And today I'm quite interested. So it's interesting to see brands like this evolve. Also, I think they have a real competitive advantage. They can do things at a price less than a lot of the Swiss brands that's really similar in quality, and I think that'll get them places. So you can see our full article and my review of the Yima Wristmaster Slim CMM 2.0 limited edition, which I call the hand brushed. Gentlemen, I think that's it. There has been a lot, actually, more watches last week, but we're nearing end of time.
This is plenty.
This is no. Is this going to be our last show of 2024? Is that what this is? It is, I think. No, maybe next week.
Next week?
Yeah.
Well,
next week.
Real quick,
see.
Ariel, what a blog to watch shirt are you wearing? I have the red Royal Oak.
We're
great.
buddies.
Letchy. Very cool.
I think the story behind this shirt that has, of course, the octagonal Royal Oak bezel on there is I designed these around the time when Audemars Piguet lost the rights to this, and officially anybody could use it. So I wanted to celebrate that in the fashion of a shirt. So if you like this, people are going to think Royal Oak, but now anyone can use it.
That's amazing. And it's embroidered with like 40,000 stitches, so that's kind of cool.
Yeah, and David does everyone by himself.
Yeah, like it's literally 40,000. Maybe not by myself. I use the person whenever...
Storytelling, David, come on. Hand
Whenever I'm done
craftsmanship.
scratching Yima's bracelet, they come and do embroidery for us.
Inspired,
That's why they get so mad.
the stitch work is inspired by the Hungarian countryside.
Yeah, that's actually spot on.
It's a quilt of the nation's pride.
Oh my god. Oh.
Okay. Well, we will have definitely the attempt of having one more show. Rick, we miss you, buddy. We miss the jingle. We need a holiday jingle now with the numbers in it. Maybe a holiday jingle with the podcast at aBlogtoWatch.com email address, which we hope that you will email if you have comments or hopes or desires or holiday greetings or wishes. Whatever it is, let us know, and we will make fun of you on the air.
Fly your sleigh carefully, Rick.
Okay, everyone. Thank you so much. This has been Ariel, Ripley, and David for A Blog to Watch Weekly. We'll see you next time.
Bye, everyone.
See you. Bye.